No one on the 518 southbound local could recall exactly when the rain had turned into a siege. It began as the usual late afternoon patter against the carriage windows, a gray gauze over fields and hedgerows. Then the wind rose, flattening wheat and warping telephone wires until sparks leapt in cobalt arcs along the line. By the time the driver announced that a trunk cable had snapped near milepost 93, the rain was a liquid wall. The train groaned to a stop beside a sign that read, Graybridge Halt, unstaffed. There were 23 people aboard, plus a conductor named Malik who apologized with almost comical formality. Ladies and gentlemen, Network Rail regrets your inconvenience. An emergency team will attempt repairs as soon as conditions permit. Until then, I must ask everyone to disembark for safety reasons. The station building should provide shelter. We followed him out into the shrieking dark. Lightning turned puddles into strobe lights, but the platform roof held. Behind us, the driver shut the train down, its windows going black like a row of extinguished eyes. Graybridge Halt was little more than a brick waiting room, a boarded-up ticket hatch, 2 rusted vending machines, and a pair of dim bulbs powered, miracle of miracles, by a still-live spur line. It smelled of dust, ancient timetables, and creosote. Malik did a head count, then radioed control to report our numbers and location. The reply came back as snow-filled static. He tried again, more static. Well, he sighed. At least the roof's solid. The wind hammered so hard that its whistle became a pipe organ. Outside, trackside alders whipped like flagellants. The timetable on the wall showed the next scheduled train, 0642 tomorrow. If repairs took all night, that would be the first rescue. Among the involuntary cast, a slender violinist in a crushed velvet jacket, 3 university students with climbing packs, an elderly couple on their way to visit grandkids, a woman with a pram holding a sleeping baby, 2 suited commuters who kept checking their wristwatches as if time itself owed them favors, a rotund man in a Hawaiian shirt carrying a ukulele case, a girl of about 10 with pink headphones and a sketchbook, and me, Lissa Clark, freelance travel writer whose laptop battery was at 9%. We stared at one another with the wary politeness of people dragged into proximity by fate. Our gadgets had patchy signal at best. Someone's phone died mid-scroll. Another person cursed when his email wouldn't refresh. Malik tried the radio again. Nothing. "We're marooned," the ukulele man announced with a theatrical grin. His voice had the cheerful twang of someone determined to extract fun from disaster. "No," corrected one of the wristwatch commuters. "We're inconvenienced." "Same difference," said the ukulele man. He set his hard case on a bench and flipped the clasps. The instrument inside was painted sea blue with hibiscus decals. A white luggage tag read, Bernie Tiki Hansen, Entertainment Services. The little girl abandoned her sketchbook and hovered close. "Can you play?" Bernie winked. "Only on days ending with Y." Lightning flashed and the lights flickered. Someone shivered. The waiting room had no heating, just concrete floor and metal benches. The baby in the pram stirred, then whimpered. The mother whispered lullabies that were swallowed by thunder. Malik spoke up. "I'm going to check the far end of the platform, see if there's a secondary shelter. Please stay together." He stepped through the door, leaning into the wind. Then we heard a crash, wood splintering, metal skittering. Instinct pushed us outside. Half the canopy's gutter had torn loose, smashing onto the platform in a shower of sparks. Malik hurried back, drenched but intact. "All right," he said, wiping rain from his beard. "We'll keep everyone inside, madam." He addressed the mother. "Is your child warm enough?" She nodded but looked brittle. "His name's Leo. He gets croup if he's cold." The violinist rummaged in his trolley bag and produced a long cashmere scarf. "Wrap him in this," he offered. She accepted with a tearful smile. Micro acts of kindness spread like a contagion. The students dug thermal blankets from their packs. The elderly couple shared granola bars. Someone passed around a thermos of peppermint tea. Yet the atmosphere remained tense, tethered to each distant rumble of thunder. It was Bernie who broke the spell. He strummed a bright C major that rang above the gale. "Graybridge Unplugged, ladies and gents. Admission is free. Tips gratefully accepted in the form of applause." His grin dared anyone to object. At first, we chuckled politely. Then the ukulele launched into a jaunty rendition of "Here Comes the Sun," which felt like gallows humor of the sweetest kind. The baby quieted, eyes round. The little girl began to draw the scene, crayons flying in quick bursts of color. When Bernie finished, the room clapped with surprising vigor. Even the wristwatchmen tapped their soles. The violinist bowed. "If there is to be music, allow me." He introduced himself as Anton Petrov, second chair with the Martingale Chamber Orchestra, traveling to a recital in Exeter. From his bag emerged a polished French violin and a bow like a razor of horsehair. He tuned with a few liquid strokes, then played a lament so pure it turned the waiting room into a cathedral. Rain drummed counterpoint on the roof. Thunder served as timpani. When he ended, silence carved the air. Then applause burst forth again, louder, longer. Bernie tipped an invisible hat. "Maestro, that was killer. But a festival needs diversity. Anyone else got talent?" The students exchanged glances. One, a wiry redhead named Tamsin, rummaged in her pack and pulled out 2 collapsible trekking poles. "They're not bongos," she said, "but they can keep rhythm." Her friend Jonah produced an aluminum water bottle half filled with pebbles. Instant shaker. The third student, Liam, unfolded a camping stove to make a resonant steel drum. They jammed a syncopated groove. Bernie laid chords over it, and Anton layered improvisational trills. It was ridiculous, inspired, glorious. "At this rate," said the grandmother, "we'll need programs." The little girl, whose name turned out to be Maya, held up her sketch pad. She'd drawn caricatures, Bernie with his ukulele, Anton with fire streaming from his bow, students hammering gear, mother rocking baby, each scene captioned "Graybridge Storm Festival." "Festival," Bernie declared. "That's it. We're stuck here anyway. Let's turn layover into lineup. Workshops, performances, storytelling. Whatever gifts you've got, share 'em." A murmur of agreement rolled through the group. Malik checked the dead radio, sighed, then shrugged. "All right, might as well keep morale up." He pinned a safety notice to the bulletin board and wrote over it. "Tonight, Pop-Up Platform Festival, BIO Talent." Outside, the tempest still raged, but our focus pivoted inward. We arranged benches in a semicircle. Suitcases doubled as tables, backpacks as seats. Someone discovered that the vending machine, though past date, still dispensed crisps and chocolate bars. The students rigged a headlamp inside the glass to create stage lighting. Bernie emceed. Next up, open mic stories. Subject, journeys that changed me. The grandmother, Mrs. Ellis, volunteered first. She recounted a 1960 hitchhiking odyssey from Brighton to Istanbul, with only a map and a friend who spoke 5 words of Turkish. The tale involved goats on buses, a clandestine folk concert at dawn, and the moment she realized fear is a border you draw around yourself. Her husband, Mr. Ellis, watched her with the awe of someone who had fallen in love 50 years earlier and kept right on falling. When she finished, Anton played a soft reprise that seemed to underline the moral. We applauded, and the wind applauded harder. A suited commuter, Mr. Wilcox, reluctantly stepped forward next. "I have no musical talent," he said, But I do budgets, and under normal circumstances I'm insufferable. Laughter loosened the knot in his shoulders. He described a trip to Nairobi to audit a nonprofit, how meeting children who built toys from scrap rewired his metric for success. I went to examine accounts, he concluded, and discovered I was bankrupt where compassion belonged. It wasn't a polished speech, but the vulnerability rang true. Bernie gave an approving chord. The mother with the baby introduced herself as Zara. "I can't stay up here long," she apologized. Leo stirred whenever thunder cracked, but she offered a lullaby from her Moroccan grandmother, sung in lilting Arabic. Anton accompanied with pizzicato whispers. The lullaby floated around us like scented smoke, and if the storm outside recognized competition, it dared not interfere. Between acts, the students served festival refreshments, instant ramen cooked on the camping stove, garnished with jerky. Mr. Ellis produced a hip flask of single malt, shared via paper cup communion. Some sipped cocoa from self-heating packets. What initially felt like rationing became gourmet camaraderie, each bite flavored by storytelling. I took notes, reporter instincts humming, yet I also felt the itch to contribute, not merely document. When Bernie called for another storyteller, I raised a hand. "My journey started with a photograph," I began, nerves replaced by the room's steady gaze. I described a picture of my late father standing on a Himalayan ridge, tattered map in hand, which I found after his death. The photo sent me chasing his footsteps 6,000 miles, learning that the summit he'd failed to reach never mattered. It was the letters he wrote to my mother from each village, testimonies of wonder. "He taught me travel isn't about geography," I finished, "but generosity of attention." My voice shook, but nobody looked away. When I sat, Anton played a gentle coda in 6/8 that felt like a heartbeat. Around 10 p.m., the lights flickered ominously. "Generator's on its last cough," Malik warned. We dimmed the headlamp to conserve power. Shadows danced across brick walls like silent spectators. Bernie announced an impromptu child-friendly segment before energy vanished. Maya showcased her sketches under the weak bulb. Scenes of the festival, each participant now a mythic hero. Anton's bow a flaming sword, Malik's radio a lightning rod, Zara's lullaby notes drifting as birds. Applause faltered only because hands were busy wiping eyes. Suddenly, a colossal boom rattled the building. The bulb flared, then died. Darkness swallowed sound. For a moment, the only light came from sporadic lightning slits across window slats. Someone gasped. Leo began to cry. "Stay calm," Malik urged. He switched on a torch. The students produced headlamps. Pools of white illuminated anxious faces. Bernie strummed, but without amplification, the ukulele was a whisper. "This festival needs fire," he said, half joking. "Anyone pack lanterns?" Liam snapped fingers. "I've got chem lights, glow sticks for night climbs." He cracked 24, handing them round. Neon blues, greens, and magentas bloomed, draping everyone in aurora hues. The waiting room transformed into an undersea cave. The baby's cries eased amid the color ballet. Thunder still snarled, yet our mood refused to buckle. "Power's out," Malik admitted, "and so's the radio. But track repairs should resume once the storm relents. We'll hold tight." Bernie blew into a kazoo he'd produced from nowhere, issuing a comedic fanfare. "Ladies and gents, welcome to Phase 2, the acoustic glow set." Anton nodded. "I will need rosin, but no electricity." He launched into Bach's Air, the aria flowing like moonlit river water. The glow sticks swayed in group sync. Even the wind seemed to hush, listening. Between pieces, we discovered hidden talents. Zara performed shadow puppetry against the wall with a headlamp. dancing rabbits, soaring cranes, a lion that bowed to a mouse. Maya squealed delight. Mr. Wilcox recited lines from Shakespeare he'd memorized for a school play decades earlier, stumbling only twice, rescued by prompts from Mrs. Ellis. In the corner, I listened to the storm and realized its rhythm echoed an old gospel tune. I hummed it tentatively. Bernie caught on, added chords. Tamsin and Jonah supplied percussive trekking poles. Soon we were all singing Down to the River to Pray, voices overlapping in luminous harmony. The old bricks reverberated, rain acting as choir. I felt tingles skid across my scalp, proof that wonder could occupy even shabby waiting rooms. Midnight approached. Fatigue crept in. Some curled on benches, others stretched on coats laid over the floor. The glow sticks pulsed gently. I dozed, dreamed of wandering through carriages that became forests, suitcases blooming into flowers. When I woke, a hush prevailed. The storm had receded to a distant murmur. Dawn's first indigo pried at the windows. Malik moved among us, checking pulses of sleeping passengers. A guardian angel in fluorescent vest. He caught my eye, whispered, "Rail crews en route. Lines may reopen by 8. Outside, the landscape emerged, steam rising from sodden earth, the rails like silver cords. Birdsong hesitated, then tested the air. As people stirred, Bernie sat up, hair sticking out like wet straw. "Morning set," he suggested hoarsely. No one had energy for a full concert, but Anton tuned quietly, offering a sunrise melody. We passed around the last of the chocolate. Spirits were soft, reflective, not jubilant but content. At 0712, a maintenance locomotive clanked into view, bright yellow and marked with hazard chevrons. 2 engineers hopped down, startled to find a neon-lit audience. "What in blazes happened here?" one asked. "Pop-up festival," Maya replied, solemn as a docent. She handed the engineer a finished poster. Graybridge Storm Festival. 1 night only. Humans unplugged. By 0805, commercial power returned. The waiting room lights blinked on, pale compared to glow-stick afterglow. Malik's radio crackled. Clearance to board. Our halted train would be hauled to the next major junction where onward connections waited. We gathered belongings. The place looked both commonplace and haunted, like a stage struck after closing night. Candy wrappers beside sheet music, glow-stick husks, empty ramen cups, evidence of something unrepeatable. I closed my laptop, battery miraculously at 2%, and snapped a photo of Maya's poster. "Think you'll host a sequel?" I asked Bernie. He shrugged. "Can't schedule serendipity, but we can keep instruments tuned." Boarding was swift. People swapped contact information scribbled on ticket stubs. Mr. Wilcox offered to sponsor Maya's art supplies. The students invited Anton to jam at their campus pub. Malik received a standing offer of free concert tickets in Exeter. Zara shared her grandmother's recipe for cardamom tea with anyone who wanted it. Even the wristwatch men shook hands goodbye. As the train pulled away, I watched Graybridge halt shrink into horizon mist. I half expected to hear music trailing from its bricks, but only gulls cried. Yet I felt the festival still humming inside us, like embers banked against future cold. Later, back in a world of Wi-Fi and schedules, news feeds were cluttered with political storms, celebrity spats, supply chain woes. Nobody cared that 23 strangers had rewritten a night's misfortune into symphony. But I wrote the article anyway, titled, "The Station Where the Weather Turned Passengers into Performers." Editors trimmed it, yet left the heart. That community is a pop-up phenomenon, possible wherever humans surrender agendas long enough to listen. Weeks passed. One morning, an envelope arrived. Maya's drawing of me mid-harmony, trekking pole drums behind. On the bottom she'd written, "Music is weather we choose." I pinned it above my desk. Sometimes now, when thunder growls, I shut the laptop, fetch my neglected guitar, and imagine specters of that night. Anton's violin somersaulting into the rafters, Bernie's ukulele strumming sunlight into storm clouds, Zara's lullabies parachuting down, glow sticks orbiting like lazy comets. I recall how a remote halt became a hearth, how strangers stitched safety with notes and narratives. The world still lurches, trains still break down, but I carry a souvenir invisible to metal detectors. The certainty that while storms can strand us anywhere, festivals too can arise on a cough of wind. Anytime we open our cases, crack the glow sticks, and trust that the tune will find us.